The historic O'Brien's Inn and Restaurant has closed its doors and is empty once again after the new managers say they started to receive death threats. They say it all began when a news outlet published an unverified tip from a viewer that said migrants were being housed here. Well, migrants were not being housed here, and the new managers say they now have to deal with the consequences. The new managers of O'Brien's Inn in Waverly, New York say their dream of renovating the historic landmark overlooking the Chemung River quickly turned into a nightmare. They took over the property after it was shut down in May by the Chemung County Health Department due to several code violations. On Friday, a local news outlet reported that it received an unverified tip that migrants were being housed there. The owners say the report triggered a wave of harassment and even death threats. They did not want to speak on camera and asked us not to reveal their names because they say they fear for their safety and for their staff. The managers say it all started with a desire to help their community. They accepted to provide temporary housing for 8 people placed by the Department of Social Services. They say most of them were elderly, handicapped, or had developmental disabilities. After the unverified report was published, the managers say people started driving by the hotel, revving their engines, and yelling profanities, even driving through puddles in the parking lot to splash guests sitting outside. The managers say the guests were left terrified and they also feared for their safety. The managers say threats were also made to burn the hotel down, and they also suspect broken vending machines and other equipment have been vandalized. Chemung County Executive Chris Moss told me he was not aware of any threats made against the managers of O'Brien's. Mr. Moss says the remaining homeless people who were housed there were moved to another location on Monday, but for different safety reasons. Could we just confirm for the record that migrants are or are not being housed at this location?
There are no migrants, to my knowledge, being housed there. I think that'd probably be the last place they would be housed. Look, it is not the perfect location. Once I found out that the homeless that are being housed there were placed there, I had several questions for the Department of Social Services. I've directed that we get those folks moved to a better location, Horseheads, Elmira. Here's the problem. It's a safety issue. And we have folks, handicapped folks, using wheelchairs in the middle of the roadway, either to get to Waverly or to get to the other end, to the golf course down the road. It's become very dangerous with people walking up and down the road. There's no street lights. It's just not a good location. Why the Department of Social Services selected that location, I'm not sure, but we're trying to rectify the issue right now.
Well, so that's not something you would sign off on, specific locations as to where folks are housed. That's a Department of Social Services decision.
Look, I'm in charge of the Department of Social Services at the end of the day. I was not aware O'Brien's was being utilized. It was brought to my attention by a business owner in the area, and we've been looking into it for a couple of weeks, and since that time, we've been trying to relocate those families to a motel that's better suited, where there's stores and places you can walk and not have to be in the middle of the roadway.
The management at O'Brien's tells me they are now closed while undergoing renovations until further notice, and there will also be around-the-clock security here on the property. In Waverly, I'm Nick Dubina, 18 News.